Hi there, I'm Andrew.
And I'm Louise, and welcome to Toddlers, Teens and In-Betweens.
So are you a parent of teenagers, or are you dreading the day when your child becomes a teenager, with all the challenges and unknowns that parenting teenagers brings? Do you even remember what it's like being a teenager? Now, I know a lot has changed, especially the hairstyles, the fashion, although it's slowly coming back around again, except for the mullets. Let's keep the mullets out of this, never to come back again. Well, today, we're going to be discussing how to talk to teens.
And by talking to our teens or pre-teens, we can understand how to communicate with them better, especially as they grow older. Today, Andrew and I are joined by our son Max, our daughter Olivia, and their friend Nick.
Hey guys, thanks for joining us today. We're joined by Max, because my son, my number one son, not number one son, but first son. And we've got Olivia, my firstborn.
Number one daughter.
And friend of the family, Nick.
I thought it was your son. I'm not part of the family.
Let's talk, maybe we'll get into that really soon. But listen, could you guys introduce yourselves? Perhaps, I don't know, name, age, and something interesting about yourself.
I'm Max, I'm 18 years old, and something interesting about myself, I love to act. I did lots of school plays.
And if your favourite part, school play?
Oh, I did play Prince Charming and Cinderella, which was a pretty good part.
Yeah, not
You
bad.
love that one.
How about you, Olivia?
I'm Olivia, 21, and an interesting thing about me is that I liked maths at school.
No, that's
She's a maths
Strange.
Is that
geek.
interesting or strange? Max?
Weird.
She was a maths geek.
I was weird.
Hey, Nick, introduce yourself.
Yes, I'm Nicholas, and an interesting fact about me is I like to wear gowns.
Gown.
Yes,
What type of gowns?
Like dressing gown.
yes, just
Oh,
a
no.
gown.
Oh,
Dressing
wow.
gowns.
I thought it meant like university.
No, not like fully, no.
Like a dressing
like
gown.
just
So you
gown,
just
yeah,
live in
yeah.
a dressing
I'll
gown?
just,
I'll tell you what
very
else is really
comfortable
interesting, that you introduced yourself as Nicholas.
Yes, is that weird?
That's his proper name.
Yeah.
Is it?
Because we always call you Nick, don't we?
Nicholas, I don't know, something changed from
What's the best, you know, so you're 19, right, Nick? What's
18.
18. What's the best thing about being a teenager?
best thing is probably everything is kind of done for you, everything's paid for you, everything's, but you know,
Easy life.
Yeah.
easy life, yeah.
Max, best thing about being a teenager?
Yeah, definitely echo that. But I'd say best thing about being a teenager is you get to stay up late. You know, from being a kid, you have a bedtime, but then once you're a teenager, you get to stay up late and do what you want.
Yeah, it
which
gets
is a
kind of
good
stretched out, doesn't
Yeah.
it? What about you, Olivia?
Yeah, probably you get to stay up late, you get food, you just get more, not responsibility, but you get more freedom.
A little bit more freedom.
Fun. Independence, that's the word.
And hopefully
yeah.
with a bit of responsibility as well.
Hey, there's some big words being thrown around here. Independence, responsibility,
We're intellectual teenagers.
intellectual teenagers. Hey, listen, I'd love to ask you this question to get us started. Now we're talking about talking to teenagers.
Right.
What are some of the silly things you might have heard your parents, Nick, or you guys have heard us say? What are some of the things that you think, no, don't go there?
I think definitely at times you do think you're too cool, and you try and think that you're trendy and like you
We
know,
are.
Like mum's like, oh yeah, that's really fashionable at the moment. Like you're like nearly 50, so like you
I am not nearly 50.
He's not nearly 50.
I am not nearly 50.
Right.
That's the trouble with
Making up,
teenagers.
Max is grounded.
For life.
So I think sometimes you try and be a bit too trendy, think you know what's fashionable.
And we do. Anyway, moving on.
Moving on. Nick?
Something that annoys me is my dad trying to teach me something that I'm better than him at.
Oh,
That's
Like
quite
what?
annoying. I don't know, like table tennis, something like that. Just different things like that he's trying to teach me. I'm like, I should be teaching you.
Yeah. Any silly things we've ever said, Olivia?
Probably back in my day, which like I've started to do that to the younger boys now.
Yeah.
And Zach said to me yesterday, Olivia, Max was telling me about back in the olden times when you used to do this. I'm like, that was 15 years ago. That's not the olden times.
Yeah.
One of the things you picked me up on was I keep saying TV stations.
Yeah.
Yes.
You want to choose the TV station.
TV
Yeah.
station, is that
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That,
I thought you were trying to say
that was a
train
thing.
station or something.
But TV stations were a thing.
No, but Max was saying how he'd said TV channel, and then he corrected
Yeah,
himself
you
to
said
say
you said TV
station.
channel, then you corrected yourself to station. I was like, no, you were right the first time.
He also says
You also do say that you always say mobile
Mobile
phone.
phone.
They're like, Dad, there's no mobile phones these days. It's just a phone.
Exactly, yeah.
I remember having to sit on the bottom step and having to actually have the phone plugged into the wall. So
Those were the days. Those were the days.
this,
Dad used
this
to-
type of thing is
Yeah.
what is weird.
Yeah, exactly.
Those were the days back in my day.
Yeah.
My mum said to me,
And but you will do it. You will do it, I guarantee.
we were saying today, because we were on the car on the way here, we were listening to 80s music, and I was saying to Max, imagine when we're this age and we're listening to our music that we're listening to now. It's
exactly.
gonna be
Like
so
Justin
weird.
Bieber, they're like, what is
Isn't it?
this?
It's so
So
strange.
guys, you're going to educate us today on how to talk to teenagers, because clearly we are way off.
Clearly, we don't have a clue.
And everyone watching is going to have a great education today. Anything in particular that we've said to you guys, and certainly to you two, or your parents have said to you, Nick, that you think actually, now's not the time, or that's the wrong thing to say? Help us out here, the conversation.
Probably we understand social media, or it's not that different to when we were young.
Yeah.
Because
Is it that different?
you don't
It is very
understand.
different.
You might understand social media, but you don't understand what it's like being a teenager with social media in this time.
Right.
Yeah, definitely.
Is that true, Nick?
Yes, I agree. Yeah, completely different. I mean, you guys used to. What did you even use back then?
We used
Write
a pen and a
letters
paper.
We used to write
What's
letters
that?
and cards to each other.
Yeah, I couldn't even imagine. So it's a whole different thing.
Yeah, I think
true.
it is a whole new world, and when we're older as well, it's going to be completely different for our kids. And even though there are some similarities, the way we communicate and the way we interact, the way we socialize, the friendships, what they're built on, it's all completely different now. So I think sometimes when parents pretend to understand everything and say, oh no, we understand, like Olivia said, that can be a bit irritating
Right.
on my end anyway.
Well, what if we do understand?
You don't, because you don't understand.
It's impossible.
You can try to understand, but you don't understand what it is like being a teenager in 2020.
yeah,
can never
just
know.
can't one. Just facts.
Yeah.
You just can't.
So what's the best way to handle that then? What do you want to hear from us in that moment? Instead of, yeah, it was the same, what do you want to hear?
We don't want to hear anything. We want you to listen.
Yeah, we want you to try and
Right.
begin to understand.
Exactly. Yeah.
Understand that you don't understand and that you want to learn more about what we're feeling. The worst is when a parent comes in and assumes they know everything about all your problems.
Yeah.
So, oh, I dealt with this. This is how I dealt with it. Well, to be honest, it's very different. So,
Do you find that, Nick?
Yes, definitely. My dad can be that way sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's just different times.
Yeah.
It's just completely different times.
Yeah.
So,
So how does that make you feel when as a parent, your parent, Nick, perhaps Garth comes in, I know your father, he comes in, he says, I understand, son. I know what you're going through. Do you engage in conversation back with him, or do you just kind of like soak it up?
yeah, sometimes I do soak it up. Yeah. Yeah, it's just quite difficult. And I understand that it's coming from a place of love and they, they want the best for me.
Right.
But
Right.
it's just, you have to listen to sometimes.
Yeah.
Right, okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
What's some of the silly things that we've said to you, Max?
Sometimes let's sort this out right now, or let's talk about this right now, because sometimes you sometimes take me saying I don't want to talk about it as I'm just holding back a bit, but sometimes I really don't want to talk about it. If I'm feeling a certain way, and you say let's talk about this right now, I say I don't want to talk about it right now, and you think that's me just putting a wall up, but I genuinely just don't want to talk about it right now. And then when you push,
How do we know though? How do we know if you just put a wall up or if you really don't want to talk about it?
I think you just got to judge it. I mean, there's no
Teenagers
way.
are complex.
Exactly.
Yeah, they are.
Exactly.
But, I mean, this might be a struggle for you, but put yourself in our shoes for a moment. I know you're thinking how cool that would be, right?
Definitely.
But as a parent, we want to help. And so the only way, the last thing we want to do is just see any of our kids go through stuff on their own. We want to intervene, we want to
Yeah.
help. And so that's a challenge when you're saying, hey, I don't want to talk right now.
Yeah. I think, it's a very difficult balance to get, and it only comes with practice and knowing your kids. I think once you have a good relationship with them, I feel like me and Olivia have a good relationship as brother and sister, so I can kind of tell when she genuinely doesn't want to talk about it, or she's just saying, no, I don't want to talk about it, but she really wants me to push. And I think that's just your responsibility on you guys to know your kids.
Right,
right.
right.
And know what they're feeling and read it and not really think about yourself, but put yourself in their perspective. Think about the time of day. Maybe it's like early in the morning. They really just don't want to talk.
Exactly.
I'm not a morning person. I know you aren't, Nick. But so sometimes that's not the best time, or maybe they're about to go out and they just want to go out. So
It's like that classic thing when kids come home from school and you want to find out about that day and they don't want to tell you because they just can't be bothered.
yeah.
There's a time, but then you might ask them after dinner and then they start to share things.
You're like,
It's
what
just
did you
there's a
do? What
time
did you
for
learn
everything.
today? Which lessons did you have? How long were they? What were your teachers like? What homework did you get? And you're like,
Leave me alone.
I've answered questions all day. I want to get in.
So is that the same when you're a teenager, though? Then, because I find out we still ask those questions. We ask those questions of our younger kids,
Right.
But we also ask those questions of you guys if they come back in. Do your parents ask you how your day was, and
Well, they pretty much, I'm home most of the day, so they kind of know. I'm with my parents most of the time,
Right.
so they can kind of see.
Yeah,
they
so
can-
it's a bit different
Yeah.
for you. But when you were younger, when you were at school, did that happen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sort of all the time. And I just say, yeah, it was good.
Yeah, and that's all you.
Okay.
that was good.
That's what everybody says.
We want a
yeah.
bit more than good, though.
Yeah.
Don't we?
I think if there's something worth telling you, I'll tell you.
Probably singing. He kind of underestimates himself, but I think pretty much everyone in our family is quite good at singing. And Jackson kind of just messes around sometimes and like pretends he's really bad at singing, but I think he's really good. So, cheers. It's okay.
And the same for you?
I think he's good at football, but he doesn't really. Sometimes he doesn't take it seriously, and he doesn't think he's as good as he is. He's actually solid.
Thanks.
They can be like a bit off the scale sometimes, but then some of the time they can be quite cool.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose so. My dad's cool.
They just like will go and say hi to a random person, or do you want to go and listen to that person?
I think our parents are quite cool, like compared to other parents. They don't dress like really old, and they're quite like fashionable.
For me, probably when we were at this park and my dad just like pantsers me. Just my shorts.
They're up at church speaking about us when we were like babies, and it's kind of weird how like we have like weird thoughts. They share weird things about us.
Yeah, when they say like, what girls do you like? I don't know what to say. We always like play fight and wrestle, so that's quite fun.
I normally win.
No, you don't.
Yeah, I do.
No, you don't. What are you talking
Yes,
about?
I do. The classic is probably Zach, I want to show you something outside, and then get the hose and spray him really hard, and yeah.
And you guys tag team on Max?
No,
No, Max is too big.
he'll just fight us, but then Max doesn't really get in trouble anymore because apparently he's too old, so
Yeah.
yeah.
It's easy to talk to my mum, but my dad not so much.
For more boy things, I guess I'll go to my dad. But with other things that I felt like my mum would be better at, I'd go to my mum. So it's just whoever, like, I think they're a good balance.
My dad's a lot more stricter than my mum, because like if we left a bowl in the living room, my mum would say, don't do that ever again. But then my dad would like send us to our room, no food or anything.
I feel like I would go to my mum in overall in situations because my dad is really nice, but he can be honest, more honest, but like in a good way. But my mum just doesn't. Well, she's honest most of the time, but I mean, she's just always like kind-hearted and stuff like that.
No way. No way.
Like my mum would be like, oh, I know, like, some people would be like, oh, I know what you mean, but she doesn't know what I mean.
They're like, well, when I was your age, I didn't have TV and stuff like that.
there a good time to talk to teenagers, as in a time of day? Because I don't know about what happens in your house, Nick, but I always find that Olivia and Max, especially Max, it's kind of getting on for midnight and Max starts to open up and wants to spend...
This really irritates me if I can just, if I can just have a say for a moment. This really irritates me because I'm bedding down for the night and all I can hear is next door conversation. I'm thinking, why are we having a conversation this late at night?
Yeah. I'm definitely a nighttime person and I could stay up till 3 a.m. and be full of energy. So I think once it gets to like 11 o'clock, that's when I'm like, the emotions start coming out. I'm like, I want to open up.
You want to bare your soul.
But like 10 a.m. in the morning, I don't want to talk to anyone, let alone open up to my parents. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, because it's true, because Max comes in my room at like midnight and he's like, oh, Olivia, do you want to chat? And I'm like, no, I'm going to bed.
Yeah, but then I think
You
people
also
are different.
talk late at
People are
night.
different.
Yeah, sometimes.
You will also talk. Is that the same for you, Nick? Is that the time when you would feel more likely to open up?
Probably, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, because I'm not a morning person for sure. I don't want to speak to anyone. I don't want to see anyone in the morning.
So are all teenagers not morning people?
Yeah, but you're
I'm
quite
a morning person, but I'm probably weird.
Yeah. No, but some teenagers I know like get up at. I've got a friend who gets up at 7 every morning and goes for a run. Like that's just not me. But
Right.
some people
Are you his
like
horny
that.
friend?
But I think I do, even though, we say about morning people, etc., I do find that when I talk to other parents that so many of them do say that it's at night that their teens start to open up and want to talk, whether they're a morning person or not. So maybe it is just a season of life thing.
Maybe.
That's when it seems most comfortable for you.
Yeah. Here's something interesting that I'd love to know your thoughts on, guys. Are there things that are off limits for us to talk to our kids about, or is everything open
On the
to
table?
discussion? What should we talk to you about? Any subjects that are just stay away, Dad?
I think it's down to the person and their personality. So, like, for some people, they really don't want to talk about relationships, or they feel like I feel so cringed out.
Have you had any relationships?
I don't have any relationships.
Do you have relationships and don't want to talk to me about them? Or do you really not
That's
want
the
to?
thing,
We'll
you'll
never
never know. I wouldn't even talk to Max. I just feel cringed. But Max is quite happy to just open up about it.
But I think you have different parents. Like I would more likely open up to mum about relationships because it's just a bit more awkward with dad because some parents are just different in that kind of way. I think I would only talk to dad once it got serious because then
what?
Because dad interrogates so much.
dad interrogates. Yeah.
Is your father interrogator, Nick?
Or is it your mum?
Not. It's my mum.
Yeah.
It's my mum for sure. Yeah, she's the interrogator. I usually tend to talk with my brother about that type of thing.
Yeah.
Right.
And he tends to talk to me as well.
Yeah.
Did you talk to your parents about it? No?
No, not really.
No.
I mean, I haven't actually been in a relationship in that way. But I think if I was, I don't think I would.
You would wait and
What
talk to your
about
brother.
like the sex talk, right? When is it appropriate to have the sex talk with your kids?
I feel awkward you even asking this question.
Have we ever had that conversation?
No.
Me and Olivia have.
It was the worst time of my life.
I've had it with you.
I think I quite enjoyed it. Like
This is the thing, it's
I had
different
lots of
personalities.
questions, and I think because I got it quite early because I just wouldn't stop asking questions, would I?
Yeah, that's right. Max is that child. Who is that child?
Yeah, so I think it's definitely to do with each kid. And when you're, as parents, you think that they're ready to know. And I think it's more when they need to know. I think definitely before secondary school, because you don't want to be that weird kid in year 7 who doesn't have a clue what everyone's talking about.
When did your parents talk to you about this, Nick, or did they, or have they not?
No, they did. I remember it was a drive. I was driving with my dad, and yeah, he was like, "So, do you know about this?" Yes, I know. I know. I know.
You don't have to say any more.
Yeah, because
of
actually we
story.
had one at school. Yeah, I just didn't want to talk to him about it, to be honest. I was like, yeah, I know. Yep, okay.
Yeah, and that was it.
Yes, pretty much.
Yeah.
But no, he's expressed that he can talk to me about anything, and I do actually feel that way. So
Yeah,
That's good. That's really good.
I
Yeah.
think definitely, as a parent, you can't get offended if you're not the chosen one that they choose to share some information with.
Right.
So sometimes, you might go to one parent and share the heart. The other parent can't get offended because they didn't come to them or they didn't. sometimes we don't want to be sat down with both of you. Sometimes it just happens and you talk about it, or you want to go to a certain parent.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
But there's some things that I would only talk to Dad about, and some things I would only talk to you about.
Like what?
Like if I needed to make a decision, like an important life decision,
You wouldn't go to Mum for wisdom.
I would go to you.
No, I would
Sorry,
go
darling.
to you.
But I would go to you for the more emotional side of it.
What?
And like if I just wanted to vent about something.
Is this news to you?
Nick, you're now thinking you're pleased you're not in our family. It's tough. So you go to Mum for emotional conversations,
Yeah.
and me for really practical.
Yeah, if I just need a straight answer and I need a solution to a problem, straight to you, yeah.
What about you, Nick? Who do you talk to about the emotional stuff, Mum or Dad?
I think mostly my dad with both. I feel like emotional actually stuff, I probably talk to my mum more. But my dad is very good with that type of stuff as well.
Yeah.
So I can speak to either of them, to be completely honest.
Lucky you.
So you're blessed. You've got parents who are both you can talk
Yes,
to about.
yes,
Yeah.
Max
yes.
is
We're suffering.
You just choose
handicapped.
one.
Yeah.
Do you ever find that we get too intense? Or do your parents ever get too intense and you just think, hey, that's as deep as we need to go now? Because sometimes
Yeah,
I think
take a
as
step back.
parents, I think sometimes we don't know whether to go in the shallows or whether, sometimes we'll say to
right.
each other, we're not sure how to talk to our kids about that.
Yeah. And do they want us to?
Do you want
even?
us to? How would you say to parents they'd know when to go deep or stay shallow?
I think it's hard to gauge it as soon as they start becoming a teenager. So when they hit 13, 14, that's when you're still very much involved in forming their identity and who they are. Once you start hitting 15, 16, 17, 18, that's when they want to be more independent and make their own mistakes and make their own decisions. So I think in those earlier years of being a teenager, they're still all right for you to talk to them and fine with most things, even the awkward stuff. Once you get older, you kind of find out the things for yourself. And it's a parent's decision to kind of gauge, well, do I need to have an input on this or can they just find out on their own?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Make some
I think it
mistakes.
changes over the ages.
And the conversation doesn't stop here. Join our Facebook community for more insight from parents and also live videos each week to answer any questions you may have. We're also on Instagram, so there are loads of ways for you to stay connected.
And of course, by going over to our website, you can access articles that we really hope will educate, inspire, and support you, as well as being able to find out about some really cool online training events.
Something I was going to ask was, what do you, in those teenage years, what do you think you really need from your parents? Because it's kind of, it's like you said at the beginning, Max, it's very much a transitional age, isn't it? Kind of 13 to 18. It's 5 years, but you change so much. You think we've got a 13-year-old Zach, but you're so different to him in that 5 years now that you're 18. What would help you to navigate those teenage years well from your parents? Anybody
I
can
guess
jump in.
maybe just being there, I guess, just being there
Yeah.
to have a conversation whenever I'd need to talk, just being there.
Yeah.
And I
to
think
listen.
actually I remember you, Andrew, had a preach about having someone outside of the family that your children can go to.
Yes.
And I think that's
Hallelujah.
actually-
Someone listened to one of my preachers.
I did, yeah.
This is a
And that was a
revelation.
good point because there is some things that you don't want to speak to your parents about.
Yeah.
And it's just your parents, lowering their ego.
Yeah.
And,
Right.
Do you have people like that? You talked about your brother. Who else? Do you have people in your life when you don't want
Yes.
to talk to your parents? You
I do, but I don't actually tend to speak to them. But I know if I need to, then
If you need
Yeah.
to, they're
and
there.
I would
think
just echo that as well. I think as parents, you should be very intentional about placing people in their lives who are a bit older than them, maybe who have left school. And especially in a church environment, I think it's a lot easier to get mentors and place people around them. And not in a pressuring, forcing way, like you have to open up to this person, but just creating the open relationship.
Yeah, the
and I
opportunity,
think you guys have done that. And now I have friends and people I look up to, and even like married couples who I feel like I could talk to other than you guys.
Yeah.
Because
Very,
sometimes
very
we want to talk about you. And,
Yes, sometimes you're the issue.
So this is fantastic. I feel like I'm being educated as a parent here.
I know, right?
Perhaps we don't know as much as we think we do. Listen, if you could give each parent watching one little bit of advice, one gold nugget, about talking to their teens, what would you say? Nick, can we start with you?
Quite a big question.
All right, we'll come back to you then.
Yeah.
Anyone shoot
I
it.
just think listening is just really
Listening.
important. It's really
Yeah.
important.
Listen.
Yes.
Yeah.
And helping out when you can.
Yeah.
Just being there. I think
Yeah,
that's really
that's good.
important.
So
Very
availability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Availability. That's great. So being available, being open, and I guess that part about listening is very important, isn't it? Because as parents, as you can tell, I like to talk, but listening.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
about you?
listening is so important because sometimes you just want to fix it or tell them this is how you can solve the issue. Sometimes they just want someone to listen to them and tell them it's going to be okay. Yeah,
That's
and
what we try and do a lot, isn't it? We try and fix.
Yeah,
your
absolutely.
problems.
It's a parent's.
And I've said to Mum before, she
Prerogative.
said, you know, I don't know how to fix it. I'm saying, I don't want you to fix it. I just want you to listen to me. Let me cry, let me be sad, and then I'll move on tomorrow.
Yeah.
So,
That's
yeah,
great.
and also remember, we can be emotional a lot of the time. And so sometimes things are out of proportion. So it's your job to give us perspective.
Right. Interesting.
Tough job, this parenting. isn't
Tell
it?
you. Tell
Max,
you.
anything? So we got listening, being available, not trying to fix everything.
Yeah.
I think for me it would be building up the relationship so that when they need you, you're there. It's quite hard if you don't have a really good kind of balanced friendship/parent relationship, that when they do have a problem, you feel like strangers when you're
Right.
talking. You
Right.
don't feel like you can open up. So I think
Yeah.
building up the relationship so that when there is a problem, it's easier. Because I think it's very difficult to build a relationship off an issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
Have you got friends who perhaps might have difficulties talking to their
Yeah,
parents?
so some of my friends' parents have relationships with their kids where it's just kind of like more of a respectful, professional in a way relationship where
They just kind of take care
they
of
take
them.
care of them, they pay for their things, they help them out in life, but they don't have a friendship. They wouldn't talk to their parents about anything and that kind of thing. So I think it makes it difficult for them to get their parents involved in their life issues then.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
That's really good. So
Really
listening,
helpful.
and we need to take notes here, darling.
We do.
Listening, be available, and you're talking about not trying to fix everything, which is really difficult for my personality. And there might
Yeah.
be parents listening who their personality is they're a fixer.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And the challenges for us guys is that right through your younger years, we've always been there to pick you up. We've always been there
to fix it.
to fix it, to replace the batteries in your little toy that ran out of batteries. And for years, you grew up believing that mum and dad could fix everything.
Yeah.
It's very difficult for a parent to suddenly switch off
That's true.
and let you try and fix
Yeah.
things yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
And Max,
Right.
and you said build the relationship,
Yeah.
Yeah.
develop the
Beforehand,
relationship.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. I think that's important right through the teen. Well, as a child, but as they grow into a teenager, don't shy away from that relationship.
Yeah.
But concentrate on building it still, and then you've got someone to turn to.
Yeah.
And it even comes with just spending time with them. Like Nick was saying how his dad was in the car with him and he said, you can speak to me about anything.
Yeah.
And it's in times like that build
That's
a
right.
relationship. It's not super
Yeah.
big things.
Absolutely.
Guys, I feel like we've been educated. haven't we,
So
darling?
good. Yes.
So thank you
Thank you.
so much for being so open and honest. And I know it's going to help parents who are watching. Thank you.
Hey, thanks so much for joining us today. We really hope that you enjoyed this episode.
Hey, don't forget to check us out on social media. Go to our website for loads of great blogs and information about great training events near you.
We really hope to see you next week, where Andrew and I will be discussing the topic of anxiety. How can we practically help our children when they feel anxious? And as parents, how do we deal with anxiety without projecting that onto our children? You really don't want to miss it.
So we'll see you next week.
See you soon.